Alright, so moving on to section 3 here. We're looking at the basic classes of functions, section 3 in chapter 1. And yeah, here we go. So first thing is the functions that you're going to need to know for calculus. You're going to need to know kind of what these are. We're not going to go over them in this video. We kind of run into them as we move along. So polynomials, you'll need to know about your different polynomials. So these are all your x squareds, y squareds, and different things like that. Rational functions, so you've got your a polynomial on top and bottom of a fraction. Those are your different rational ones. Algebraic functions, dealing with anything algebraically solving. Exponential functions, functions that are growing exponentially, bx, bx to the a, or ab to the x, anything growing exponentially like that. Your trig functions, so sine, cosine, tangent. Your logarithmic functions, so this is mostly your log and natural logs, so your ln's, stuff like that, for those type of growths. And then your inverse trig functions as well, which is your sine of -1, arc, cosine, arctangent, all those. And when we're talking about trig functions, we're talking about all the trig functions, so not just the three basic. We're also talking about the reciprocals of them as well. So cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Okay. Next section, we're going to be talking more into detail about trig with this. So manipulating or different ways of writing functions. So whenever we have our functions, we can change them and add them, subtract, multiply, divide. So if you ever have two functions, f of x and g of x, and you want to add them together, the first line is different ways of writing it. So it can be written as f plus g of x, or it could be f of x plus g of x. When you're subtracting, it could be f minus g of x, or f of x minus g of x. You could have f times g of x, or f of x times g of x, and f divided by g of x is f of x over g of x. So the main thing for this is just remember that they could be written two different ways, and this is what they mean. Okay, the left-hand side is more of the shorthand. You can write it quicker for that. Okay, composite functions. So remember, composite functions are functions that basically are creating two different, using two functions to create a new one. And so this is what, for those in my classes, this is your fog and golf, f of g and g of f. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take the starting from right to left, so you read it backwards, you start that last function and you put it in the one previous. And that's mostly if you're using like three functions. You're doing like f of g of h if you have like three of them. But with this one, what we would do is we take the g of x function, x squared, and we'd plug it into all of the x's of the previous one. So we take x squared and we plug it into all the x's of 3x plus 5. So we end up with our answer of 3x squared plus 5. Okay, so these functions are called what? These functions are called elementary. Okay, so these functions are called elementary functions because they are fairly simple, they're fairly straightforward. Okay, so they are called elementary functions. The only reason I say that is I won't be using that term very much, but if you're reading through or working on something and they're asking what's the elementary function, that's what you're doing. Okay, that's basically it for this one, because again, a lot of the stuff you have seen in Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, it's not something brand new. Again, this is more reviewing stuff as we're moving on. Chapter 2 in Calculus is where we kind of get into the meat of what calculus really is. So here's your homework for this section. This is section 3. Again, early transcendental. If it's not early transcendental, you're going to have different page numbers, and some of the problems are going to be a little different.